get started with our presentation. So really want to introduce myself first. So I'm Joel Ahmed Mundal. I'm a security architect working in the area of risk and risk management, and I do quite a bit of enterprise architecture. So I've worked with several organizations, and over the years we've actually created a product called Sysrisk within this GRC space. So as we were working this GRC space, I wanted to introduce to you the AIRA platform that is dedicated for AI risk assistant for organizations. So today's presentation, AIRA, the future of AI-powered risk management. I always love to provide a background picture over here. This background picture, this background picture is the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River, China hydroelectric power plant. It produces 22.5 gigawatts of electricity. And you might wonder, how is this even relevant? This is relevant because these are the large, massive power sources that we need to drive today's AI industry. So I'm going to start with that. So quick intro. We are a risk management company looking at Sysrisk, Sysaudit, and Sysincident on the GRC platform. So anytime that we're actually looking at risk management as an industry as a whole, we're observing that the landscape itself is changing. The landscape that we've started with, it was this monolithic, maybe Excel sheet, your maybe some documents that you'd amalgamate and say, you know what, we're going to work in this space and collect risk within this organization. The memory of those collection activities, the memory of those activity itself would also be for a very, very limited amount of time, focusing on the specific person or the event itself. So as we matured into enterprises and really looked at enterprise needs, we're realizing that we need to collect and store the data. But we're at a completely different state right now with AI coming on board, or AI actually activity going on. There's a lot of things that happen once a year, things that happen every 6 months or every 2 months or maybe once a month. They're now happening real time, fast, right away. And that is something that is possible, and that is the technology that we do deliver using Sysrisk. So today's landscape for risk management, they're looking at oversight, accountability, involvement, insight, data-driven. And this is not about the risk management itself, but this is what the overall practice itself needs to generate for the organization. So if you look at that, then we come to this slide. So this is another default slide I'm trying to share with everybody. What we're trying to do is, who are the people who are involved? You have frontline analysts, business stakeholder, risk analyst, risk manager, risk monitor, risk auditor, your CRO individuals, and finally your corporate board. So it starts from the very bottom of the organization and layer after layer after layer, layered cake approach that you have ultimately goes to the corporate board. The corporate board is not necessarily one size fits all for every organization or for every jurisdiction or even for every country. It is not homogeneous. Their ideas and their views and the values are not homogeneous. A lot of the corporate board jurisdiction over risk or their guidance on risk is dependent on the region that they operate from. So I want us to be very aware of that what is true in say USA or in Canada or maybe in EU is not the same, say in Japan, in South Korea, in Australia, in China, or in India. So corporate boards are governed by I shouldn't say governed, but rather guided by rules and regulations of the of the country that they operate under. So what do they do? Collect enterprise data, articulate risk, resolve individual risk, ensure risk controls are in place, risk dashboard, risk appetite, and manage direction. There's activity of loading data, controls, track risk, improve, visualize. The rationale for all of this is that there's a lot of area that can be automated. And automation does not necessarily mean that we're just bringing in bolts and pieces for RPA or any other tool for integration. Rather, it really means that how do we create a end-to-end view and value for the organization? Now that at some point was like fairly difficult, but with the advent of AI, it's definitely gotten a whole lot easier. So we're looking at 65% of enterprise report of using Gen AI. 80% are seeing no EBIT impact. 40% of enterprises have enterprise strategy. What about the rest of the 60%? And where we are today with regards to AI agents and all of the, the AI-related tools and activities, we're really looking at right over here. This is a Gartner's hype cycle. So the year 2025, we're kind of right over here at the peak of inflated expectations. I'm pretty sure we're actually going to go down. And when I say down, we are going to go quite a bit right over here, where we actually realize that there is a gap that is occurring, and that gap needs to be bridged. Expectations needs to be bridged. Understanding of where we are heading also needs to be fairly well tampered with or tapered with, and really expectations need to be set better. So from that perspective, I want to take you guys to this slide. So remember this slide? Okay, just look at this curve over here and look at the investment amount that has gone through. So again, same situation. There's a peak that occurred, and now we've actually gone down, and we're coming closer towards realization of where things are. And that realization is exactly what's going to drive a lot of 2026. So how does that really impact the world of risk management? How are we going to be impacted by it? Realizing that we are the very organization that realizes that there's a risk of not having, a strategy that is guiding the enterprise towards risk management. Also, we're the same organization. We're saying that out of your $100 invested, here's like $20 of value, and here's $80 that really didn't generate value. And here, what about the 65% that are actually using regular generative AI simply for the sake of speed of users and removing a lot of work barriers? So how does that really work? So what we're really seeing is that the general AI issues, so, I don't want to say hallucination, but I really want to say made up answers, what they really are. They're literally made up answers that don't make any sense. And a lot of individuals, a lot of you actually even have got into trouble simply because, something that was expected to be true does not really add up when it's compared with reality. There's made up answers. Now we're slowly getting to the point of there's performance issues. Now we're looking at massive amount of energy consumption, and this is the same reason why I actually shared the Three Gorges Dam electric power plant in China to say that there's a lot of energy consumption that needs to happen. And finally, the part of the stagnation of knowledge scales. So you have all of this data that's been built in, and now you also have content that's being created, but these are human-made content, and now we're having more AI-related content. What happens when AI is trained with AI-related content? Okay, and now that training within that AI-related content is going to increase in a very, very fast state. It's not like it took us roughly about a few thousands of years towards coming with semiconductors and creating computer chips so we can generate, and store knowledge. So now we're looking at whatever knowledge we gathered, say within the last thousands of years, can literally be stored in one of our data warehouses, and the need for those data warehouses are expanding. So that's the world that we're living in. So while these are general AI issues that we face today, but from a general business domain perspective, and many of you are business stakeholders, risk management professionals, senior execs, what we're seeing for risk management is for risk consideration, where is AI being used? How is it being used? When is it being used? We're not aware of this. We've had trouble understanding what individuals are involved in. Now we have how AI and agentic AI agents are actually involved to try to even find that out. So we have issues around this. So a lot of the options for AI usage, I'll give you an example for Microsoft Copilot. It automatically tells you use this, and it pushes itself in front of you saying that it's here, use it, consume it. The other part of it is that there's no easy governance or easy oversight that actually can be delivered. So these are risks that we definitely see. The other part that we're also seeing is that there's no transparent conditioning data set. So now we know that the entire world's data set is actually available for you to consume, to utilize, to provide information. But there are conditioning data sets that literally writes the rules engine, literally engineers the requests that you have. Those are not transparent either. So that bias that we talk about, this is that part that says bias. That this bias, this conditioning data set, it is not transparent. How do we know that for a oil and gas company, we're not being biased to say use less oil and gas? How do we know that for a think tank that is operating in a particular location of the world, it does not have biased data that dictates that the consulting approach or the analysis for a particular financial industry should be skewed towards specific banks, say in this case, large banks in USA, large banks in UK. So you just don't know. But that conditioning data set, it needs to be transparent. So now that brings me to this next slide, and this next slide is really a repeat of our first slide that we provided. Again, going back to oversight, involvement, data-driven insight, accountability. So risk management as a whole, as the industry, as it states, it's there. What we're looking at is that the speed of delivery, the speed of deployment, the speed of finding information, the speed of identifying risk, that is happening faster. And we can do that with the use of AI, and we can do that in real time. And AIRA, or our AI risk assistant, can definitely help you move forward. So now I want to show you two more slides, and then we're going to jump into presentation and try to wrap it up. So this slide I want to share with you. So for the overall area of risk management, so this is a business capability model. So the overall knowledge domains within risk management itself, it can be broken down into these 13 areas. And these 13 areas are your risk governance and oversight, risk identification, risk assessment and analysis, risk treatment and control, risk monitoring and reporting, strategy, performance and decision support, compliance and regulatory risk, operational risk, technology, data, and cyber risk, TPR, or third-party risk. There's aspects of risk culture awareness and enablement. There's risk, data, analytics, and artificial intelligence. And finally, there's the area of risk technology integration and automation, which is an area that I tend to focus in. So my focus area is in risk technology, risk data, and definitely cyber, and looking at the third-party ecosystem. So these are areas that I tend to focus in, but I know a lot of you might be coming from this entire spectrum of activities. Now, this particular 13 areas or 13 pillars, they're applicable for any and every framework that you're looking for. So you might be saying that, well, we're looking at COSO. You might be saying we're looking at Basel. You might be saying that we're looking at UK's regulatory bodies or US regulatory bodies, or even in Canada or in Japan. But in all of those cases, those regulatory bodies are utilizing framework as such towards fine-tuning further features and functionalities and alignment to those risk areas. If we go to this slide, and this slide, and let me try to see if I can expand on this. So this slide, it really goes and talks about those same items, but it expands on it. So what you have is a level of attributes. And from the level of attributes, now we've gone to the point of actual capabilities. And if you notice these capabilities, out of these capabilities, these blue ones, these are hot topic targets specifically for the area of enabling AI right away as soon as possible. So if you're saying that, what are the projects that I should really look at as soon as possible that I can actually pursue and do? These are your risk governance and oversight. Definitely you can enable AI in that. With regards to risk identification, you can do that. Risk assessment, you can do that. Risk treatment, controls, you can do this. Risk monitoring and reporting, possible. Strategy, performance, decision support, this is possible. Compliance and regulatory risk identification and its impact on you, it is possible. Operational risk resilience, it is possible. TPR, this is the reason why I kept technology, data risk and AI, risk technology, risk culture awareness, not necessarily, except for risk culture awareness, not necessarily that these 1, 2, 3 items are not AI, how should I word it? They're not necessarily uh, driven by AI, but rather they are what is AI made out of. So, when I talk about technology, data, risk data analytics, AI, risk technology, integration, automation, this really forms what AI, that entire stack is. And this stack is delivering your artificial intelligence capability in all of these areas. So risk culture, awareness, and enablement with regards to AI. And I think that's where the human aspect comes in. You don't use a machine or artificial intelligence to teach you culture. You want culture to be taught by yourself with your colleagues and through discussion, through your conversation. So this, folks, brings us to this last slide, or almost like our slogan slide, which is empower your enterprise, identify risk, resolve non-compliance, and drive seamless innovation. So I'm going to go and take 10 minutes towards showing the demo for our product. And so this is the tool that you see when you actually log into our product. And when you log into our product, this is me just giving a quick intro of the product. So you have your own profile, but if you are the root user, you come on board, you see that, hey, I'm the admin. I've got 2 users. There's 6 admins. There are user groups. There's current billing amount that's provided. Your admin list is provided. User management, user group, administrative logs, business rules engine. I want to come back on this one, and this is a very serious topic over here, guys, as part of AI. I want to show this to you. But aside from that, you also have your company settings. Company settings are important because it gives you company information, company profile data, company strategy items, and ultimately shows how far your company has been onboarded. And this is really us utilizing AI towards loading this data into the data set so that you get better tweaked results. So going to the product itself, so you can just click on Enterprise Risk Management, which is the default risk management product that we provide, and it provides you with this this view, which is actually, first of all, your general information tile. So you can see your total approved risks. You can look at your recently added risk, and these are all filtered in the same place. And you can also look at your portfolio target and your current risk score. And as your risk score changes, your risk appetite changes, as your portfolio target risk changes, that is also visualized right over here. Okay. And because it's just a test environment, so there's no risk resolution per month per se, but you can see that there's risk approval status, risk growth, risk status, etc. What's in execution initiated, all those statuses are provided over here. So now that's a view. Manually, what do? We actually enter risks. But whenever you have an idea of something that is considered risk or something that is risk, it is not necessarily risk per se on the company's ledger as a risk item. For that, what happens is that it gets through the process of risk approval, and it gets approved. Once it's approved, then it goes into the risk register, and then it gets prioritized so you can actually visualize what are the different risks that are being utilized for your company. and then you can generate risk. And you can also close risk. So aside from that, you can also have product access management, category, risk lifecycle, dashboard config. But here's the magic, and this is where I want to like introduce AIRA to you guys. So all of the work, so the very fact that you have gone into the effort of adding onboarding information, and you continue to add onboarding information, where you add company information, company profile, company, and a company onboarding status. So this is your transparent data set that actually conditions the AI engine for yourself. So you don't have to go to say, ChatGPT or a Copilot to say, hey, here's my entire organization's information, give me these insights. Or you provide no information and say, what is the current risk right now? So guess what? AIRA actually does that all for you. And what AIRA actually does, AIRA states that, do you want to search with company information, the same information that you provided? It uses that as a conditioning information and allows you to say, you know what, my industry sector is, say, maybe agriculture, forestry, and fishing. And there's a crop and animal production, hunting, forestry and logging, say forestry and logging as a particular area. Select framework, you're looking at environmental risk. And say in this case, in Canada, logging is a massive issue. So you might check and say, deforestation, okay? Soil erosion. Erosion. Okay, perfect. So now, but when I presented this as Sysonex, our sister's product, it is utilizing the company's own database or data set of information to condition this response. I can just simply say, you know what? Do not search with condition company information and provide me with individual information. But these individual information that you see, we also have another data set that is for 99 business sectors, sorry, 99 business divisions with roughly about 20 business sectors for per quarterly 23 risk items covering 8 areas of risk that is also stored, and that is slowly, progressively improved and augmented. So based on that, you can actually provide the search, and what it's really doing right now, as you realize, it's not only looking at, say, the data set for this particular industry risk area, but it's also aggregating all the risk tables that we have. And that's what I meant by transparent conditioning data set. And the transparent conditioning data set is part of our AIRA platform. And part of our platform, now you can see, is providing with regulatory restrictions from permitting curbs, water scarcity, reputational damage from perceived deforestation and biodiversity loss impacting sales and engagement, soil erosion and land degradation. So you know what we can do? So again, mind you, this is a company that is trying to expand in a different area. It is not doing IT right now. It is looking at, say, environment risk management or environmental activities. Like in Canada and BC, we have a massive, logging industry. So you accept this as a risk item, and it's right away provides you all of this information and say that are you okay to accept it, knowing that it's an item that you're looking at. And risk resolution, I don't know. It doesn't provide me with risk resolution, but what it actually, and this is important, guys, who's the risk owner? Who is it going to be assigned to? Who's it going to be monitored by? And these scores are already provided. Let's just say that we added, say, $1,000 and 150 for the sake of this. So now that particular risk, you're actually adding this as enter on our username. So you're now adding this as a risk item, okay, in your organization. So as you've added that as a risk item, it goes straight into your risk approvals queue. And hopefully it goes into the risk approval queue. Okay, so it should go into the risk approval queue. Yes, sorry, I apologize. It went into the risk entry item. And then after going into the risk, this is what you mean by demos. The demo gods are, you have to like give them ohms for being successful in the demo. So now you've actually put it into a actual entry, but it doesn't have a risk ID queue. You go over there and you can actually say save risk and ask for approval. Once you've saved this and asked for approval, guess where it goes? It goes to this risk approval queue now. And it goes to this risk approval queue. You saw that it was empty just a while ago. So that's good. So you know it wasn't, we didn't have these pre-baked, cakes available already, but no, this is that item. You can actually visualize it as a manager. You can actually, sorry, apologies. You can visualize it, and after that, you can approve it. You can request for changes. Once you've approved it, once you have approved this particular risk. So now what happened is that you went through the process of getting AI to provide you with a risk item. You went through the process of saying that this is that manual intervention that I talked to you about, that you need to have a human in the middle that is supporting this. This is that human that came into contributing to that activity. We're going to go back to AIRA and we're going to say discover risk resolution, and we're going to see that same item that did not have any risk resolution is right over here. And we're going to select this item and say, you know what, provide me with a risk resolution. I don't want to say that because I don't have expertise in the forestry industry, because of this intense, public buyer sensitivity of deforestation, toleration, that may happen. I don't have exposure in this area. So provide me with potential risks that I will face and provide me with the risk resolution that I can actually get. So now it's actually looking for risk resolution. And voila, you now have a phase one or 0 3 months published clear forest and biodiversity policy and track supply chain. So this is looking at reduction, avoidance, and sharing. And you can accept it. You accept it, and this is your risk resolution. After you've accepted it, you can actually move forward with it, save risk, and you can literally you can also start like uploading documents, and you can also like do your risk controls right over here. But we're going to say that, I accepted it, and I'm going to start the timer, and I'm going to start adding notes. And if you notice, all of those notes are actually all added over here. So now that I've actually found risk in a specific area that I have no knowledge on, now that I've actually found risk for an area and actually approved it in my risk register, which is your this particular area, I can go about and actually share this with my colleagues. And you can just like copy this, and I can just send it over to my colleagues on Teams or Slack, whatever it is your fancy, and they will start being able to use it. You can now upload documents based on that risk category, and you will actually have these documents loaded and one after the other. And finally, you can actually add a control name, add a control description, control tags, and then based on that, you can say, this is how this particular risk will actually change. But you know what? You don't know the controls. You didn't know the risk item to start with. You didn't know the risk resolution to start with, and you don't know the risk controls that are applicable. So let's go back to AIRA, because AIRA is going to help us in this area too. And if we say that, can we actually find a particular list of risk controls? And you again select this item, and again you search for risk controls, and you actually just verify if this is that specific items. Yes, this is the one that has not been changed, and you actually search for risk controls. So now it's actually searching for risk controls. So risk identification for an industry that you're not aware of, risk resolution for industry that you're not aware of, and then finally you're actually being provided with risk controls that actually allows you to like change and tweak, fine tune the risk or the risk values for the organization. While that is also like working on, and now here's I know we're completed 3 minutes already, so I'm just going to try to skip. So now you have, as I said, you have any of these controls that you can actually accept, and not only can you accept those controls, you can actually add them, and after adding them, you can actually change these values, and once that's done, the other parts, I do want to touch base with root cause analysis, strategy, risk relation, but I'm just going to go on like a risk control assessment. So RCSA provides you the view of your risk scores and your risk score overview, but you can actually look at a particular time frame and say, give me within this time frame, what is my potential risk scores and views and values for RCSA? And then you can say, tie every single one of these risks with a control and provide me with their effectiveness, and tie every single control with their risk to show the risks how they're actually being reduced. So this is that view. I'm going to have this, I'm going to have another version. I'm going to have another demo with you guys in a few, not in December, definitely next year. But one thing I definitely want to show to you guys, and I definitely have that in intention, is the business rules engine where, you know, your agentic AI data feed that you're getting, you can now feed it within this area, within our business rules engine. You see this business select modules. You can select an individual module or a API endpoint and get those endpoints towards generating individual rules name and individual business rules. So now that you have this huge volume of data that is flowing to you from any, say, any data cybersecurity tool or any other tool, you can ingest that data, push it through the system, and then you can actually start visualizing it. And what I mean by that visualization is that we have a very strong visualization capability. If I can find it, yes, risk prioritization. So here's the categories of risk, here's the risks that have been initiated, and here's all of the views that you're actually getting. And again, some of these views and the dollar value, the actual heat map, the risk scatter plot, the dollar value that is tied to it, and individual items. And you can at any point of time say, show me all the critical items, and it'll show you only the critical items. So that is a filter that we have actually installed. Not only that, you can look at, I'm assuming it should be all environmental risk over here. So you can look at and filter out any and every other risk based on, you know, its status of execution as of right now, and that will give you a view of what you're looking at. So right away, it actually reduces the number of risks that we're actually working on. Instead of it was 12, it's now 4. So again, the AI risk engine that we, or AIRA, that we wanted to show is that we covered these 4, and we also were able to show to you the business rules engine, where you can actually select a module, which is an external data endpoint that ingests the data, and based on the data rule sets, now you can actually start populating the rules and populating the target object that triggered the condition, the value, and the rule action that you want to select, and you can create a business rule, and that business rule can be further fine-tuned.